Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring up at the ceiling, feeling the crushing, suffocating weight of your own existence? In those quiet, terrifying hours of the night, the distractions of the modern world fall away. Your phone screen is dark. The endless noise of social media, the demanding emails from your boss, the relentless advertisements telling you that you are not enough, that you need more, that you must achieve more, all of it is temporarily silenced. And in that heavy silence, you are left alone with the most terrifying companions of all, the ghosts of your past and the phantom anxieties of your future. You replay every mistake you have ever made, every awkward conversation, every failed relationship, every missed opportunity. You dissect them with the precision of a surgeon, bleeding out from wounds that should have healed years ago. And then, seamlessly, your mind shifts to the future. How will you pay those bills? What if you never find true love? What if your health fails? What if you spend your entire life working, striving, pushing that boulder up the hill, only to realize at the very end that you were climbing the wrong mountain? We live in an era of unprecedented technological advancement, surrounded by comforts that kings and emperors of the ancient world could not have even hallucinated. We can summon food, transportation, and infinite libraries of information with a mere tap of a piece of glass in our pockets. Yet, despite this unimaginable abundance, we are collectively drowning in a silent epidemic of profound unhappiness. We are the most medicated, distracted, and anxious generation to ever walk the face of the earth. We have mastered the physical world, but we have entirely lost control of our inner landscapes. We are constantly searching for the secret, the life hack, the morning routine, the ultimate self-improvement paradigm that will finally bring us peace. We buy books from modern gurus, we attend seminars, we download meditation apps, all in a desperate bid to find the elusive formula for happiness. But what if I told you that the ultimate secret to human happiness, the profound, liberating truth that shatters all anxiety and dissolves all regret, was discovered over 1,000 years ago? What if I told you that this secret is so radical, so profoundly dangerous to the established order of society, that the institutions of power, both ancient and modern, have spent centuries trying to obscure it, sanitize it, or make you forget it entirely? To find this secret, we must travel back in time. We must leave behind the flashing neon lights and concrete jungles of the 21st century and journey across the sands of time to 11th century Persia. We must walk the dusty, sun-baked streets of Nishapur, a thriving metropolis of the ancient Islamic world, a city alive with the scent of saffron and the sounds of merchants, scholars, and poets. It is here, under the impossibly vast and star-studded canopy of the desert night sky, that we find a man staring upward, mapping the heavens. His name is Ghiyath al-Din Abul Fath Umar ibn Ibrahim al-Nisaburi al-Khayyami, known to the world simply as Omar Khayyam. If you know his name today, you likely know him as a historical polymath, a brilliant mathematician who laid the groundwork for algebra, an astronomer who reformed the calendar to a degree of accuracy that surpasses even the Gregorian calendar we use today. You might know him as a scientist, a philosopher, a man of profound intellect whose mind could grasp the infinite complexities of the cosmos and the abstract absolute of numbers. But there was another side to Omar Khayyam. Beneath the robes of the esteemed scholar, beneath the calculations and the astronomical charts, beat the heart of a radical rebel, a spiritual anarchist who saw straight through the illusions of his society and, by extension, the illusions of ours. Khayyam was a man who looked into the abyss of existence, recognized the terrifying, inescapable reality of our mortality, and instead of despairing, found the ultimate liberation. he encoded this dangerous, liberating philosophy into 4-line poems known as rubaiyat. These poems were not meant for the rigid clerics or the power-hungry politicians of his day. They were whispered among friends, shared over cups of wine in hidden gardens, passed down through the centuries like a secret flame kept alive in the darkest of nights. So, what is this 1,000-year-old secret? Why is it something they don't want you to know? To understand this, we first have to understand who they are. They are the architects of the societal machine. In Khayyam's time, they were the rigid religious dogmatists who maintained power by keeping the populace terrified of divine retribution in the afterlife. They were the political rulers who demanded constant sacrifice and obedience in the present for the promise of a better tomorrow. In our modern era, they look different, but the mechanism is exactly the same. They are the megacorporations that need you to feel inadequate so you will buy their products. They are the political and economic systems that require you to perpetually defer your happiness, to grind away the best years of your life in a cubicle, promising you that one day, when you retire at 65, you will finally be allowed to live. They are the social media algorithms designed by behavioral psychologists to hijack your dopamine receptors and keep you in a constant state of comparison, envy, and manufactured outrage. All of these power structures, ancient and modern, rely on a single fundamental lie to control you. They must convince you that the present moment is not enough. They must keep you exiled from the now. They must chain your mind to the unchangeable past through guilt and regret, and tether your soul to the unpredictable future through fear, ambition, and false hope. As long as you are living in a time that does not exist, the past or the future, you are controllable. You are a consumer, a worker, a follower. Omar Khayyam's secret to happiness is the total, unapologetic, and radical destruction of this temporal illusion. It is a philosophy of extreme, almost intoxicating presence. Khayyam recognized that the past is a phantom, a story written in dust that has already blown away in the wind. No amount of agonizing, weeping, or bargaining can alter a single letter of what has already been written. The future, conversely, is an absolute void, a dark room that does not yet exist and may never arrive. The only reality, the only true possession you have ever had or will ever have, is the infinitesimally small, razor-thin sliver of the present moment. Listen to the voice of the 11th century astronomer reaching across a millennium to shake you awake. Dead yesterdays and unborn tomorrows, why fret about it if today be sweet? This sounds deceptively simple, almost like a cliché you might read on a greeting card, but do not be fooled by its simplicity. To actually live this philosophy is an act of supreme rebellion. Think about how much of your cognitive energy is spent mourning what was or dreading what will be. Khayyam looked at the stars, calculated the incomprehensible vastness of the universe, and realized the absurd brevity of a human lifespan. In the cosmic scale of time, a human life is less than a blink of an eye. It is a spark flying upward from a fire, glowing brightly for a fraction of a second before being swallowed by the eternal darkness. Recognizing this is not meant to induce nihilism or depression. It is meant to shock you into an explosive appreciation for the miracle of your own temporary existence. If tomorrow is not guaranteed, and yesterday is gone forever, then sacrificing today on the altar of societal expectations is the greatest tragedy a human being can commit. Let us delve deeper into the core metaphor Khayyam uses to transmit this secret: wine. If you read the Rubaiyat, You will find it overflowing with references to wine, taverns, cupbearers, and intoxication. For centuries, literal-minded critics and puritanical scholars have debated this. Was one of the greatest scientific minds of the Islamic Golden Age merely a raging alcoholic? Or is the wine purely a mystical, Sufi metaphor for divine love? The truth is far more profound and subversive. The wine of Omar Khayyam is the distilled essence of the present moment. It is the raw, unfiltered experience of being alive. To drink the wine is to fully immerse yourself in the sensory reality of the now. It is feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, the cool breeze against your skin, the taste of cold water, the sound of a loved one's laugh, the profound, unadorned miracle of simply breathing. Khayyam uses wine as the ultimate symbol of rebellion against the rigid, joyless dogmas of his time. The clerics promised rivers of wine in paradise as a reward for a lifetime of miserable, ascetic obedience. Khayyam laughed at this cosmic bait and switch. Some for the glories of this world, and some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. Ah, take the cash and let the credit go, nor heed the rumble of a distant drum. He is telling us to stop trading the undeniable, tangible reality of the present for the invisible, unprovable promises of the future. The cash is today. The credit is tomorrow, whether it be a religious afterlife or a secular promise of future wealth and status. They want you to invest in the credit. They want you to delay your gratification, to suffer now so you can reap rewards later. But Khayyam, the mathematician who dealt in absolute certainties, saw that the future is the most uncertain equation of all. A sudden illness, a freak accident, a geopolitical upheaval. In a single second, the future you sacrificed your entire youth for can evaporate like mist. Therefore, the only logical, rational response to the human condition is to drain the cup of life to its dregs, right here, right now. This brings us to another critical component of Khayyam's secret, the profound acceptance of the limits of human understanding and control. We modern humans are obsessed with control. We believe that if we just plan meticulously enough, if we optimize our schedules, if we read enough self-help books, we can conquer fate and bend the universe to our will. When things go wrong, we blame ourselves or others, spiraling into anger and resentment. Khayyam, sitting in his observatory, plotting the unchangeable deterministic orbits of the planets, understood the hubris of this illusion. He penned one of the most famous and chillingly beautiful stanzas in literary history. The moving finger writes, and, having writ, moves on. Nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it. This is the doctrine of absolute surrender. It is not fatalism, it is realism. There are massive, incomprehensible forces at play in the universe: biology, physics, economics, history, the random chaos of probability, that dictate the vast majority of what happens to us. You did not choose where you were born. You did not choose your parents. You did not choose your genetics. And you cannot control the countless external events that will impact your life today. To constantly fight against this reality, to demand that the universe conform to your personal desires, is the root cause of almost all human suffering. Khayyam invites us to let go, to stop arguing with reality. When you finally accept that you are not the supreme director of the universe, a massive, crushing weight is lifted from your shoulders. You are a passenger on this bizarre, beautiful, terrifying cosmic journey. You cannot control the destination, and you cannot control the speed of the train, but you can control whether you spend the journey screaming in terror or looking out the window, marveling at the scenery. Khayyam's philosophy dismantles the ego, which is the primary engine of our unhappiness. The ego is that voice in your head that constantly demands validation, that compares your behind-the-scenes reality with everyone else's highlight reel, that tells you that you are uniquely important and that your problems are of cosmic significance. Khayyam takes this inflated ego and gently but firmly grinds it into the dust of the Persian desert. He frequently uses the metaphor of the potter and the clay. He imagines himself walking through a potter's workshop, looking at the earthen vessels. He realizes that the clay these pots are made of was once the flesh and bone of great kings, beautiful lovers, fierce warriors, and arrogant scholars. For I remember stopping by the way to watch a potter thumping his wet clay, and with its all-obliterated tongue it murmured, "Gently, brother, gently, pray." This is the ultimate equalizer. No matter how much wealth you accumulate, no matter how many followers you have on social media, no matter how desperately you cling to your status and your identity, you are destined to return to the earth. You will become dust, and that dust will be used to grow the wheat that feeds the next generation, or to mold the cups from which future men will drink their wine. When you truly internalize this, not as a morbid, depressing thought, but as a profound truth of nature, the petty anxieties of daily life instantly evaporate. Who cares if someone insulted you? Who cares if you failed an exam or lost a job? In 100 years, you will be dust. The person who insulted you will be dust. And the very concept of your failure will be erased from the memory of the cosmos. This realization is the ultimate freedom. It grants you the permission to stop taking yourself so seriously. It allows you to step off the stage of the exhausting performance of life, take off the mask you wear for society, and simply be. But to adopt this mindset requires immense courage. It is easy to follow the herd. It is easy to buy into the societal narrative that success equals money, status, and constant productivity. It is incredibly difficult to stand in the face of all that pressure and declare, "No, I reject your game. I will not trade the precious, unrepeatable moments of my life for your artificial rewards." This is why Khayyam's knowledge was considered dangerous, and why it remains a secret today. If everyone suddenly adopted the philosophy of Omar Khayyam, the entire modern economic machine would grind to a halt. If people realized they didn't need the newest smartphone, the bigger house, or the luxury car to be happy, but rather only needed to fully engage with the present moment and accept their mortal nature, consumerism would collapse. If people stopped fearing the future and stopped striving for arbitrary societal milestones, the massive industries built on our insecurities would go bankrupt overnight. Society needs you to be hungry, dissatisfied, and anxious. A completely contented human being who lives fully in the present moment is utterly useless to the capitalist machinery. They are unexploitable. They are free. Khayyam achieved this freedom 1,000 years ago. He sat in his garden under the shade of a blossoming tree, holding a cup of wine, listening to the song of a nightingale, and recognized that this fleeting, fragile, beautiful moment was the absolute pinnacle of existence. Nothing greater could be achieved, no matter how many kingdoms one conquered or how much gold one hoarded. Imagine applying this 1,000-year-old software update to your modern brain. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, not with a sense of dread about your to-do list, but with the profound realization that this day is a miracle. You are a highly evolved arrangement of stardust, briefly gifted with consciousness, hurtling through the cold vacuum of space on a rock covered in water and green life. Imagine walking into your workplace, recognizing the absurdity of the corporate theater, doing your work with a light heart, completely detached from the stressful outcomes because you know, deep down, that the moving finger has already written the script. Imagine looking at your aging parents, or your growing children, or your friends, and realizing that your time with them is slipping through your fingers like dry sand. Instead of checking your phone while they speak to you, you drink the wine of their presence. You listen to them as if they were a dying melody, because, in the grand scheme of time, that is exactly what we all are. Khayyam teaches us that the fleeting nature of life is not a reason for despair, but the very source of its beauty. A plastic flower lasts forever, but it is dead. A real rose is exquisitely beautiful precisely because it will wither and die in a matter of days. The fragility of the present moment is what gives it its immense value. By desperately trying to immortalize ourselves, by trying to freeze time, build monuments, or achieve endless growth, we miss the delicate, heartbreaking beauty of the ephemeral now. As we continue to unpack the mind of this 11th century genius, we must venture further into the darkness to find the light. Khayyam was not a man who lived in denial of the world's suffering. He lived through turbulent times in the Seljuk Empire, witnessing wars, political assassinations, and religious persecution. He saw the hypocrisy of the powerful, who preached piety while committing atrocities. His secret to happiness was not born of ignorance, but of a hyper-awareness of the world's tragic nature. To understand the profound depth of his conclusion, we must look closely at the man's daily life. During the day, Omar Khayyam was not a wandering mystic or a lazy bohemian. He was the foremost scientific mind of his generation. He was commissioned by the Sultan to build an observatory in Isfahan, a project of immense logistical and intellectual complexity. He spent his days calculating the exact length of the solar year down to decimal points that would not be matched in the West for centuries. He wrote treatises on cubic equations that pushed the boundaries of human mathematics. He lived entirely in the realm of hard facts, provable theorems, and the unyielding laws of physics. And yet, when the sun set, when the astrolabes were put away and the parchment scrolls were rolled up, this genius of logic would look out over the ancient city and realize the terrifying limit of his own intellect. He realized that science, for all its magnificent power to explain the how of the universe, was completely mute when it came to the why. Mathematics could map the trajectory of the stars, but it could not explain the ache in a human heart. Astronomy could predict eclipses, but it could not predict the betrayal of a friend or the sudden onset of a plague. This realization is the breaking point for many intellectuals, both then and now. When the smartest people realize that their supreme intelligence cannot solve the fundamental problem of human mortality, they often fall into a dark, impenetrable nihilism. But Khayyam did something extraordinary. He took that intellectual dead end and turned it into a gateway to profound joy. He reasoned that if the ultimate answers to existence are permanently hidden behind an impenetrable veil, then spending your brief, miraculous life agonizing over those unanswerable questions is a tragic waste of time. He wrote, "There was a door to which I found no key. There was a veil past which I could not see. Some little talk awhile of me and thee there seemed, and then no more of thee and me." In this realization lies the destruction of the intellectual ego. We are a species obsessed with meaning. We desperately want to believe there is a grand overarching narrative to our lives, a cosmic storyline in which we are the heroic protagonist. We look to religion. We look to philosophy. We look to modern science to hand us a neatly wrapped package containing the meaning of life. They, the institutions that govern us, are more than happy to sell us these pre-packaged meanings. usually in exchange for our money, our obedience, or our labor. But Khayyam whispers from the shadows of the 11th century, "The meaning of life is that it stops. The meaning of life is the living of it." The search for a grand, hidden meaning is the very thing preventing you from experiencing the obvious, radiant reality right in front of your eyes. Imagine going to a magnificent, once-in-a-lifetime banquet filled with the most exquisite foods, beautiful music, and wonderful company. Instead of eating, drinking, and laughing, you spend the entire evening running around the banquet hall, frantically knocking on the walls, interrogating the waiters, and agonizing over who built the hall, where the food came from, and what will happen when the party is over. By the time you realize you cannot get the answers, the food is cold, the music has stopped, and the lights are being turned off. You missed the party because you were obsessed with understanding the architecture of the building. This is how the vast majority of human beings live their entire lives. Khayyam's secret is a radical command to sit down, take a deep breath, and finally taste the food. Let us examine another powerful weapon in Khayyam's philosophical arsenal: his absolute, blistering contempt for performative morality and societal hypocrisy. In his time, society was rigidly controlled by religious clerics, the self-appointed moral guardians who dictated how people should act, what they should believe, and how they should live. These were men who wore the robes of extreme piety, who prayed loudly in the public squares, and who threatened the common people with the fires of hell if they strayed from the strict path. Yet, Khayyam, moving in the highest circles of the royal court, saw the reality behind the curtain. He saw the same pious leaders taking bribes, engaging in political assassinations, and betraying each other for scraps of earthly power. He realized that the architecture of societal morality was largely a control mechanism, a matrix of guilt and fear designed to keep the population docile while the elites did whatever they pleased. Does this sound familiar? Fast forward 1,000 years to our modern reality. We no longer live under the absolute rule of 11th century clerics, but the structure of hypocrisy remains perfectly intact. Today, our moral guardians are the massive corporations that preach environmental sustainability while dumping millions of tons of plastic into the oceans. They are the politicians who tweet about equality and justice while voting for policies that enrich their billionaire donors and crush the working class. They are the social media influencers who project a carefully curated, heavily filtered image of spiritual perfection, mindfulness, and good vibes, all while silently suffering from profound narcissism and exploiting their audience's insecurities for brand sponsorships. They constantly set impossible standards of success, beauty, and morality, ensuring that you always feel like you are falling short, always feeling guilty, and therefore always striving to buy your way into their good graces. Khayyam's response to this hypocrisy is both hilarious and profoundly liberating. He uses the metaphor of the tavern and the mosque. In his poetry, the mosque represents the rigid, hypocritical, rules-based society where people go to be seen being good, performing rituals devoid of genuine feeling. The tavern, on the other hand, represents authenticity. The tavern is the place of the drunkards, the outcasts, the sinners. But in the tavern, there is no pretense. In the tavern, people are honest about their flaws, their pain, and their desire for connection. Khayyam boldly declared that he would rather be in the tavern, drinking wine and speaking his honest, flawed truth to God, than be in the mosque, performing a fake, heartless prayer just to maintain his societal reputation. In the tavern, I am better with my wine than in the mosque where the hypocrites align, he essentially argued. This is a terrifying concept for the establishment. It is a total rejection of the societal scoreboard. When you stop caring about how you are perceived by a fundamentally hypocritical society, you unlock a superpower. Think about how many decisions you have made in your life simply because you wanted to look good to people you don't even like. How much money have you spent on clothes, cars, or a mortgage to project an image of success? How many hours have you wasted arguing with strangers on the internet, trying to prove your intellectual or moral superiority? Khayyam points out that all of this is a ridiculous theater of the absurd. The judge is corrupt, the audience is asleep, and the play means nothing. Once you truly internalize the reality that the respectable people setting the rules are just as lost, terrified, and hypocritical as everyone else, the chains fall off. You no longer need their permission to be happy. You don't need the promotion, the luxury car, or the perfect Instagram aesthetic to validate your existence. You find your tavern, your authentic space, your true friends, your genuine passions, and you stay there, drinking the wine of real, unfiltered existence, ignoring the judgmental stares of the people trapped in the matrix of societal expectations. This liberation from societal expectations directly leads us to Khayyam's dismantling of the most insidious modern neurosis, the obsession with legacy. From the moment we are old enough to understand language, we are brainwashed with the idea that we must leave our mark on the world. We are told that a successful life is one that is remembered. We must build a company, write a best-selling book, invent a new technology, or achieve political power so that our names will echo through eternity. This desire for legacy is, at its core, a psychological defense mechanism against the terror of death. We subconsciously believe that if our name survives, a part of us survives. Our modern culture has monetized this fear to an astronomical degree. The entire concept of hustle culture, the glorification of working 100-hour weeks, the absolute sacrifice of your physical and mental health for the sake of your career, all of it is fueled by this desperate, ego-driven need to be someone important, to leave a legacy. Omar Khayyam, the astronomer who looked at galaxies millions of light years away, found this concept of human legacy to be utterly laughable. He lived in an empire that was built on the ruins of older empires, which were built on the ruins of even older ones. He walked among the shattered statues of forgotten kings who also thought they would rule eternity. He reminds us with brutal poetry. Think, in this battered caravanserai, whose portals are alternate night and day, how sultan after sultan with his pomp abode his destined hour, and went his way. A caravanserai was an ancient roadside inn where travelers would stop for the night before continuing their journey into the harsh desert. Khayyam views the entire planet Earth as nothing more than a temporary hotel. You check in, you stay for a few brief moments of cosmic time, and then you check out, making room for the next guest. The sultans, the emperors, the billionaires, the conquerors, they all check into the same hotel. They all make a great deal of noise. They demand the best rooms. They hoard all the food. And then, inevitably, their destined hour arrives, and they are thrown out into the dark, just like the poorest beggar. What happens to their legacy? It turns to dust. Look at the great pyramids of Egypt. They are the ultimate monuments to the human ego, built by pharaohs desperate to achieve immortality. Today, they are tourist attractions where people buy cheap plastic souvenirs. The pharaohs' bodies were looted, their empires crumbled, and their complex religious beliefs are now considered ancient mythology. If the most powerful god-kings of antiquity could not secure a lasting legacy, what makes the modern middle manager think that sacrificing his weekends for a corporate report will echo in eternity? By destroying the illusion of legacy, Khayyam offers us a massive, breathtaking release from pressure. You do not have to change the world. You do not have to be a billionaire, a famous artist, or a historical figure. The universe does not require you to leave a dent in it. The universe is infinitely vast, infinitely old, and completely indifferent to your achievements. This might sound terrifying at first, but it is actually the ultimate permission to relax. If your legacy is guaranteed to be erased by the sands of time, then the only logical priority is your own immediate experience of life. Your purpose is not to build a monument. Your purpose is to experience the warmth of the sun, the taste of good food, the embrace of a lover, the quiet peace of a lazy Sunday morning. By letting go of the desperate need to be remembered tomorrow, you finally allow yourself to live today. You realize that an ordinary life, lived with deep presence, immense gratitude, and profound love, is an infinitely greater achievement than a miserable, stressed-out life spent building an empire that will eventually be swallowed by the earth. Let us transition from the external pressures of society and legacy to the internal, psychological torture chamber of the modern mind, the tyranny of potential. We live in a culture that constantly preaches the gospel of limitless potential. You can be anything you want, the motivational speakers shout from the stages. You have infinite untapped potential, the self-help books promise. While this sounds empowering on the surface, it has become a profound source of psychological suffering. If you can be anything, then the fact that you are simply ordinary feels like a catastrophic failure. If you have limitless potential, then every minute you spend resting, watching a movie, or just staring at the ceiling is a minute you are wasting that potential. We are haunted by the ghosts of our unlived lives, the successful entrepreneur we could have been, the fit athlete we could have been, the perfect parent we could have been. We are constantly comparing our actual, flawed, messy reality against an idealized, fictional version of ourselves that exists only in our imaginations. This gap between reality and potential is where all our modern anxiety lives. Khayyam saw this trap clearly a millennium ago. As a mathematician and astronomer, he leaned heavily toward determinism. He looked at the perfect, unalterable mathematics that governed the movement of the planets and applied that same logic to human existence. He believed that the grand trajectory of our lives, our fundamental nature, our deep psychological makeup, is largely written before we even take our first breath. He famously wrote, "And that inverted bowl they call the sky, whereunder crawling cooped we live and die, lift not your hands to it for help, for it as impotently moves as you or I." This is a staggering thought. He is saying that the universe itself, the very fabric of reality, is just as bound by the laws of cause and effect as we are. We are all part of a massive, incredibly complex cosmic mechanism that has been set in motion billions of years ago. Now, whether you believe in strict scientific determinism, theological predestination, or modern behavioral genetics, the psychological application of Khayyam's thought is universally healing. He is telling us to drop the agonizing burden of what if. You are not a creature of infinite potential. You are a specific human being, born in a specific time, with a specific set of genetics, deeply influenced by a specific childhood, navigating a world filled with chaotic variables you do not control. You are doing the best you can with the unique, limited hand of cards the universe dealt you. The guilt you feel for not being a billionaire, for not having a perfect body, for not speaking 5 languages, it is a toxic illusion manufactured by a society that profits from your self-hatred. Khayyam offers a profound philosophical antidote: radical acceptance of the self. You must accept yourself not as a flawed project that needs constant optimization, but as a finished piece of art created by the chaotic forces of the cosmos. When the potter molds the clay, a specific type of vessel is formed. A teacup cannot spend its life agonizing over the fact that it is not a giant water jug. It is a teacup. Its purpose is to be a teacup, to hold the tea, and to exist in its nature. You are exactly who you are supposed to be in this exact moment. All the mistakes you made in the past, they were the inevitable result of who you were and the information you had at that time. Given the exact same circumstances, the exact same brain chemistry, and the exact same past experiences, you would make the exact same choice every single time. Therefore, regret is a logical fallacy. Guilt is a glitch in the human software. Imagine the immense physical relief of completely letting go of regret. Imagine looking at your past, even the dark parts, the embarrassing parts, the painful parts, and saying, "It could not have happened any other way. It was written in the grand equation of the universe. It is done." This does not mean we do not strive to grow or learn, but it means we grow from a place of peace, not from a place of desperate, panicked self-loathing. We learn the lessons of the past without carrying the emotional radioactive waste of guilt. We stop fighting our own nature. We stop trying to hack our minds into becoming relentless productivity machines, and we start allowing ourselves to be human, flawed, tired, contradictory, and entirely mortal. This radical acceptance opens the door to the deepest level of Khayyam's secret: the cultivation of an almost reckless joy. When you have dismantled the fear of the afterlife, when you have rejected the hypocritical rules of society, when you have let go of the desperate need for a legacy, and when you have forgiven yourself for not achieving an impossible potential, what is left? What remains when all the noise is turned off? What remains is the raw, vibrating energy of life itself. What remains is a profound lightness of being. Khayyam viewed joy not as a frivolous luxury, but as a serious philosophical duty. In a universe that is cold, dark, and entirely indifferent to human suffering, experiencing joy is an act of defiance. It is the ultimate rebellion against the void. Every time you laugh with a friend, every time you savor a delicious meal, every time you lose yourself in a beautiful piece of music, you are striking a blow against the darkness. You are taking the meaningless chaos of the universe and forging your own pocket of meaning, right here, right now. He wrote, "Ah, fill the cup. What boots it to repeat how time is slipping underneath our feet, unborn tomorrow and dead yesterday? Why fret about them, if today be sweet?" The urgency in his poetry is palpable. Time is slipping. The sand is falling through the hourglass. Every second you spend scrolling mindlessly, every hour you spend agonizing over the opinions of strangers, every day you spend trapped in a job you hate out of fear of the unknown, that is sand that you can never, ever put back in the glass. The universe has given you an incredibly brief, entirely unearned ticket to the greatest show in existence. You are here. You are breathing. You are conscious. Do not squander your ticket sitting in the lobby, arguing about the price of admission or worrying about the traffic on the way home. Go into the theater. Take your seat. Watch the magnificent, tragic, beautiful play of life. As we dig deeper into the application of Khayyam's philosophy to our modern, technology-saturated lives, we must confront the ultimate distraction: our phones. In the 11th century, distractions were physical and localized. Today, we carry the ultimate engine of misery in our pockets. The smartphone is the perfect anti-Khayyam device. It is designed, from the hardware up to the software algorithms, to rip you out of the present moment. When you are standing in line at the grocery store, waiting for a bus, or sitting on the toilet, you are experiencing the now. In the past, these quiet moments were spaces for daydreaming, for observing the world, or simply for existing. Now, the second we experience a micro moment of silence, we instinctively reach for the screen. We cannot tolerate the present moment unadorned. We need a constant IV drip of digital stimulation. But what are we actually looking at? We are looking at a hyper-accelerated feed of the past and the future. We look at news feeds that tell us about terrors that happened yesterday or impending doom that might happen tomorrow. We look at social media platforms that are essentially museums of other people's curated pasts, triggering massive spikes of envy and feelings of inadequacy. We are everywhere except right here. We are everyone except ourselves. The they of the modern world, the tech monopolies and data brokers, profit immensely from this constant state of temporal dislocation. Your attention is their currency. As long as they can keep you out of the present moment, they can harvest your data, show you advertisements, and mold your behavior. To practice Omar Khayyam's secret in the 21st century requires a conscious, aggressive digital rebellion. You must treat your attention as your most sacred, guarded resource. It is the only thing you truly own. Every time you feel the phantom vibration in your pocket, every time you feel the compulsive itch to open an app, you are being pulled out of the tavern and forced back into the hyper-commercialized mosque of modern society. Khayyam would tell you to put the glass rectangle down. Look up. Look at the sky. Look at the intricate patterns of the leaves on a tree. Notice the subtle expressions on the faces of the people passing you by. Engage with the physical, tangible reality that is occurring in your immediate vicinity. When you start doing this, something miraculous happens. You begin to experience time expansion. When you are scrolling through a feed, an hour can evaporate in what feels like 5 minutes. It is a time travel machine that only goes forward, stealing your life from you. But when you put the phone away and fully engage with the present moment, time slows down. A 10-minute walk in the park, without music, without podcasts, just listening to the crunch of the gravel and the wind in the trees, can feel like an eternity of peace. A conversation with a loved one where you are making eye contact and truly listening without waiting for your turn to speak becomes a profound, memorable event. By anchoring yourself to the now, you actually extend the subjective experience of your life. You get more life out of your life. This brings us to the concept of suffering, and how Khayyam's worldview provides a unique armor against the inevitable tragedies of existence. Let us be clear, living in the present moment does not magically shield you from pain. You will still experience heartbreak, physical illness, financial ruin, and the devastating loss of loved ones. These are the inescapable terms and conditions of human biology. However, the way we experience this suffering is heavily dependent on our relationship with time and the ego. In modern psychology, there is a concept often referred to as the second arrow of suffering. The first arrow is the actual, unavoidable pain of life, the physical injury, the loss of a job, the death of a parent, the sudden illness. This first arrow is shot by the universe, and no amount of positive thinking or life hacking can stop it from hitting you. But the second arrow, that is the arrow we shoot into ourselves. The second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the narrative we build around our pain. Why is this happening to me? This isn't fair. My life is ruined. If only I had done things differently, I wouldn't be in this situation. This second arrow is entirely constructed from our obsession with the past, regret, and our obsession with the future, anxiety about what this pain means for our life trajectory. Omar Khayyam's philosophy acts as an impenetrable shield against this second arrow. When you adopt the radical determinism and absolute presence that he advocates, you experience the pain of the first arrow, but you do not multiply it with psychological torture. When a tragedy strikes, the modern mind, trained to believe it is the main character of a grand, fair universe, is shattered by the injustice of it all. We scream at the sky, demanding to know why we have been singled out for suffering. Khayyam, sitting quietly with his astronomical charts, would look at us with profound, empathetic eyes and simply ask, "Why not you?" He understood that the universe is not a moral entity. It does not reward the good and punish the wicked. It operates on the blind, magnificent, terrifying laws of cause and effect. Earthquakes do not check the moral compass of a city before they strike. Viruses do not avoid the bodies of the righteous. To demand that the universe treat you fairly is to demand that a hurricane politely step around your house. It is a delusion, and it is a delusion that causes immense psychological agony. By accepting the moving finger that writes our fate, we can grieve our losses, we can feel our physical pain, but we do not fall into the abyss of existential victimhood. We accept the pain as part of the total package of existence, just as the bitter dregs are part of the cup of wine. You cannot have the intoxicating joy of love without the agonizing vulnerability of loss. You cannot have the breathtaking beauty of youth without the inevitable decay of old age. They are two sides of the exact same coin. Modern society tries to sell us a fantasy where we can keep the heads and throw away the tails. We are sold anti-aging creams, life extension supplements, and endless therapies designed to insulate us from the harsh realities of the human condition. They want you to believe that if you just buy the right products and follow the right gurus, you can outsmart suffering and outrun death. Khayyam considered this an exhausting, pathetic way to live. It is the life of a frightened animal constantly looking over its shoulder. His secret is to turn around, face the approaching darkness, and raise a glass to it. This is not morbid, it is the ultimate expression of human dignity. It is a concept that the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche would later call amor fati, the love of one's fate. But Khayyam was living it centuries before Nietzsche was born. Amor fati means not just bearing what is necessary, not just concealing it, but loving it. It means looking at the entirety of your life, the triumphs, the failures, the ecstatic joys, and the crushing defeats, and accepting all of it as a beautiful, necessary part of your unique cosmic journey. If you were to erase your greatest mistakes, you would also erase the hard-won wisdom that grew from them. If you were to edit out your deepest heartbreaks, you would also hollow out your capacity for deep, empathetic love. You are a tapestry woven from both light and dark threads. To pull out the dark threads is to destroy the entire picture. Let us elevate this perspective to the cosmic scale, exactly where Khayyam's mind lived. Imagine standing beside him on the roof of his observatory in 11th century Persia. Look up at the night sky. In the modern world, thanks to light pollution, we have lost our connection to the stars. We live under a ceiling of artificial orange haze. We have enclosed ourselves in a tiny, brightly lit box, which makes our daily problems feel massive and all-consuming. But Khayyam lived under a canopy of infinite diamonds. He mapped the movements of Jupiter and Saturn. He calculated the vast, unimaginable distances of the cosmos. When you truly contemplate the scale of the universe, something incredible happens to your ego. It evaporates. You live on a microscopic speck of dust, suspended in a sunbeam, in a quiet, forgotten corner of an average galaxy, which is just one of hundreds of billions of galaxies in the observable universe. The entire history of humanity, every war ever fought, every empire ever built, every king who ever ruled, every song ever sung, every tear ever cried, has occurred on this tiny, fragile pixel of pale blue light. Your life, spanning perhaps 80 or 90 years if you are incredibly lucky, is a fleeting biological spark in a universe that is nearly 14 billion years old. Now, they don't want you to think about this. The corporations want you to think that buying their new car is the most important thing in the universe. The politicians want you to believe that the next election is the climax of cosmic history. Your boss wants you to believe that the quarterly earnings report is a matter of life and death. The illusion of importance is the leash they use to walk you through your life. But when you zoom out to Khayyam's perspective, the leash snaps. The profound, overwhelming insignificance of your life is not a cold, depressing void. It is the warmest, softest blanket you could ever wrap around your tired shoulders. If nothing you do matters on a cosmic scale, then you cannot possibly fail. If the universe does not care whether you become a millionaire or a middle manager, whether you are famous or forgotten, then you are entirely free to define your own parameters of success. And what better parameter to choose than the sheer, unadulterated enjoyment of the present moment? The immense pressure to be somebody dissolves into the beautiful, simple reality of just being. This is the crescendo of Omar Khayyam's 1,000-year-old secret. As we begin to draw this narrative toward its ultimate conclusion, we must understand how to fundamentally shift our daily operating system. How do you actually walk through the modern, hyper-capitalist, anxiety-ridden world carrying this ancient Persian secret in your heart? It requires a conscious, daily practice of temporal relocation. You must constantly pull your mind back from the phantom realms of yesterday and tomorrow and anchor it violently in the now. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. The alarm rings. Immediately, the modern brain boots up its anxiety software. The to-do list appears in your mind's eye. The regret over going to sleep too late washes over you. The dread of the morning commute tightens your chest. This is the moment you must intervene. This is the moment you must channel the spirit of the astronomer-poet. Stop. Breathe. Feel the texture of the sheets against your skin. Listen to the sound of the traffic outside, or the birds, or the hum of the refrigerator. Look at the light filtering through the window. Say to yourself, out loud if you must, the past is dust. The future is a dream. I am alive right now. This breath is the only reality. When you go to your job, perform your tasks with focus and excellence, not because you are terrified of your boss, not because you are desperately clinging to the illusion of corporate legacy, but simply because the work is what is in front of you in the present moment. Chop wood, carry water. When you interact with a difficult person, look at them not as an obstacle to your happiness, but as another fragile, terrified, mortal creature, spinning on the same microscopic rock, entirely driven by their own complex web of unchangeable past circumstances. Forgive them instantly, not for their sake, but for yours, because holding on to anger is carrying a hot coal from the past into the pristine sanctuary of your present moment. And when the evening comes, when the day's labor is done, do not numb yourself with the endless, scrolling digital void. Do not escape into the lives of strangers on a screen. Find your wine. It doesn't have to be alcohol. Your wine might be painting, or playing the guitar, or cooking a meal from scratch, or wrestling with your dog on the living room floor, or simply sitting on your porch watching the sky turn from blue to purple to black. Whatever it is, do it with an absolute, uncompromising intensity. Pour all of your consciousness into that single activity. Be so deeply embedded in the present moment that there is no room left for the ghosts of regret or the phantoms of anxiety to enter the room. Think of your life as a book. A terrible way to read a book is to constantly flip back to the previous chapters to agonize over a plot twist you didn't like, while simultaneously flipping forward to the last pages to see how it ends, terrified that the ending will be sad. If you read a book like that, you will completely miss the beauty of the sentence you are currently reading. You will miss the rhythm of the words, the vividness of the imagery, the emotion of the scene. Khayyam is begging you, just read the sentence you are on. Read it slowly. Savor the syllables. The previous chapters are printed and bound. They cannot be edited. The final chapter will arrive exactly when it is supposed to. The only power you have, the only joy you can ever possess, is in the exquisite reading of the current page. Let us bring this journey to its final, quiet truth. Let us strip away the centuries, strip away the technology, the politics, the modern neuroses, and stand face to face with the inescapable reality that awaits every single one of us. Close your eyes for a moment and project your mind forward to the very end. Imagine you are lying on your deathbed. The room is quiet. The doctors have done all they can. The digital screens, the bank accounts, the resumes, the social media followers, all of these things have evaporated into absolute meaninglessness. They are the ultimate optical illusions of a sick society, and in the harsh, clarifying light of death, they vanish. What will be left in that final hour? What will your mind reach for as the curtain begins to fall? Will you lie there wishing you had spent more time arguing with strangers on the internet? Will you wish you had stayed late at the office on a Friday night to finish a spreadsheet that was deleted 5 years ago? Will you wish you had worried more about what your neighbors thought of your car? The answer is a resounding, universal no. No human being in the history of the world has ever wished for these things in their final moments. What you will reach for are the moments you actually lived. You will remember the blinding, terrifying ecstasy of falling in love. You will remember the taste of a peach on a hot summer day. You will remember the sound of your child's laughter echoing down a hallway. You will remember the quiet nights spent with a good friend, a cheap bottle of wine, and a conversation that stretched until dawn. You will remember the times you stopped running, stopped striving, stopped pretending, and simply allowed yourself to exist in the raw, beautiful current of the present moment. You will realize, perhaps too late, that these small moments were not distractions from your life. They were your life. They don't want you to know this secret because a society built on infinite consumption and perpetual anxiety cannot survive a population that is deeply content with simply being alive. A capitalist machine cannot extract value from a person who finds ultimate joy in a sunset, a cup of tea, and the quiet acceptance of their own mortality. By internalizing Omar Khayyam's 1,000-year-old philosophy, you are not just improving your mental health, You are staging the most profound, nonviolent rebellion possible. You are reclaiming your mind from the merchants of fear and the architects of inadequacy. You are stepping off the exhausting treadmill of becoming and sinking into the peaceful ocean of being. You are recognizing that you are not a problem to be solved, a brand to be optimized, or a legacy to be built. You are a fleeting, magnificent phenomenon. You are the universe looking back at itself for a fraction of a microsecond. So, heed the voice of the astronomer-poet echoing across the chasm of a millennium. Stop fighting the moving finger. Stop mourning the dead yesterdays. Stop fearing the unborn tomorrows. The tavern is open, the cup is full, the music is playing. The only question left is whether you have the courage to stop pacing the hallway, walk into the room, and finally drink the wine.